Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video we're doing a nice little roundup of some New Balance releases. And when it comes down to it, with what New Balance is bringing us and has brought us very recently, you could set yourself up completely. I mean, your entire shoe rotation, you could knock out every single run in just these New Balance shoes. So if you like New Balance, if you are interested in any of these, or if you just want to, go online and order a nice shoe rotation immediately, this video is going to be for you. Today we are looking at the New Balance More V6, the New Balance Rebel V5, and the New Balance Super Comp Elite V5. Let's get into it. First of all, I just want you to know that this video is in collaboration with my friends over at Roadrunner Sports. Now, Roadrunner Sports was good enough to send me the More V6, the Rebel V5, the SC Elite V5 for the purpose of review. However, as usual, they haven't told me what to say, they don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. But that said, if you want to pick up a pair of the More V6, the Rebel V5, or the Elite V5, you can from Roadrunner Sports. You can get the More V6 for $155, the Rebel V5 for $140, and the SC Elite V5 for $250. And of course, I will place links to all three of these shoes in the show notes below in case you want to pick them up for yourself. Okay, so let's get into it very briefly. The More V6 is going to be that soft daily trainer, maybe the long run shoe. It's the shoe that you're going to want to put a lot of miles in just because it's so crazy comfortable. The Rebel V5 is the shoe you're going to take out if you want to pick up the pace a little bit, and you're going to be able to do that because the foam is just a little more responsive and the shoe is quite a bit lighter. It's also very breathable. Then finally, if you are looking for that top tier tip of the spear race day shoe, you're going to be interested in the SC Elite V5 because this shoe is where it's at for speed. It is light, it is very snappy thanks to a full-length carbon fiber plate, and it is super breathable. But let's dig into a little more details, and we'll start with the More V6. And this is a max cushion daily trainer, again, $155. And the More V6 has 44 in the heel, 40 in the forefoot for a 4mm drop. Now, New Balance claimed it in a US men's size 9.5. More V6 will tip the scale at 10.8 ounces or 306 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 12.5, the More V6 tips the scale at 12.8 ounces or 363 grams. But look, if you are my size and you see that 363 gram weight on the scale, guys, I don't want to scare you off because this shoe rides a lot lighter than the scale suggests. I mean, especially in my size, because that's the only size I get to test. Now, the More V6 is built for comfort, and I'm going to hold this up so you can see the heel collar. And what is actually surprising to me is that New Balance hasn't gone over the top with their heel collar cushioning. It's not super plush. However, there is more than enough heel cushioning here to really give your ankle and your heel the comfort it deserves. And I promise you will not be wanting for any more. Now, as far as the heel counter goes, we have a nice rigid heel counter, and that's going to be the trend going across all of these shoes. But this nice rigid heel counter is an update from the More V5, where if you remember, it was just a bit floppy back here, which is totally fine. But some people may get a little bit of heel slip when the heel counter is just, well, there is no heel counter, when it's just a little loose back here. So hopefully New Balance has just corrected that problem by having this rigid heel counter, and we have a nice padded bit right at the top, which is going to help us put the shoe on. The tongue, much like the heel collar, is surprisingly thin for a max cushion daily trainer, which I'm definitely here for. Like, we have all the padding that we need to stop the laces from biting in the top of our foot without all that extra. The tongue is gusseted and there is no lace loop on the tongue. That really wasn't an issue. The tongue didn't go anywhere, which is not surprising because it has gussets holding it in place. Oh, the sock liner is removable in case you wanted to take that out and replace it with something custom. As far as the upper goes, yeah, we've got a pretty standard engineered mesh, and I want to say, as far as an engineered mesh goes on a daily trainer, it's fairly breathable. I could also say it's fairly warm, especially when we're considering it to the Rebel V5 and the Elite V5. But for a max cushion daily trainer, I didn't really find this to be very overwhelmingly warm, right? It's totally fine. Now, with overlays, yeah, we've got the New Balance N on the medial and lateral side, a little bit of support along the eyelet chain, and you'll notice we've got quite a stiff toe bumper right on the front, and that is going to hold that upper off your foot, which is going to make your foot feel like there's loads of room inside. And as far as fit goes, I think it fits like most New Balance shoes, and by saying that, I am telling you that there is more room in here than there are in some competitors. For me at least, New Balance tends to run a little wider. But with that said, the More V6 is slightly narrower than the More V5. I don't think it's enough for you to actually change your mind over what size you would get. If the More V5 fit you, the More V6 will fit you. And then we're coming down to the midsole, which with the More V6 and all of these shoes. It's actually the superstar part of this shoe. New Balance is using Fresh Foam X. It is the same Fresh Foam X that we have in the 1080 version 14, but in the More V6 with this stack height, it just presents very soft. To me at least, it rides a lot softer than my 1080. And I gotta tell you, it was a real treat to run in, especially when I'm running on tired legs. The More V6 is a shoe that if I don't want to run, just because I'm tired and maybe I can't be bothered, I am gonna put on the More V6 and just have that plush ride and just kind of enjoy myself in the shoe. The More V6 is a shoe that I would just want to wear every day for comfort. Maybe not if I'm going to be putting in any really hard work or I'm going to be picking up the pace, but for everything else, for all those easy miles, for the bread and butter miles that I put in most of all, the More V6 is where it's at. With that, let's just have a brief look at the outsole. Yeah, we've got a good amount of exposed Fresh Foam X here in the middle, which is going to keep that weight down. We've got the flex grooves coming through the forefoot and a good amount of outsole rubber. Now, I will just point out that on my lateral heel edge, there is a thicker amount of outsole rubber here, which I am really here for because this is where I'm going to see the most amount of wear, especially in a Max Cushion Daily Trainer, where I'm typically running a bit slower than I would in some of these faster shoes. So the More V6 is going to stand up to the test of time. It's going to be resilient. Let's move on to the Rebel V5. Now, first of all, the Rebel V5 has 35 in the heel, 29 in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. And you might remember last year we had 30 in the heel, 24 in the forefoot, also for a 6mm drop. But the Rebel V5 is adding on 5 more millimeters of stack height. And for me at least, that has changed the Rebel V5 and it's made it a lot more well-rounded. It's a more versatile shoe, for me at least. And it has really brought it into the category of a lightweight daily trainer. Not just a shoe that I would go out for shorter runs, especially when I'm running a bit faster. Maybe I'll knock out my workouts in the Rebel. But now with that 35 millimeters of stack in the heel, I can go quite a bit longer in the Rebel V5 and not kind of feel that road coming through the bottom of my shoe, Now, when I say this is a lightweight daily trainer, I'm not joking. In fact, in US mid-size 9.5, New Balance claims that the Rebel V5 will tip the scale at 8 ounces even, or 227 grams. However, in my size, a US mid-size 12.5, it'll tip the scale at 9.3 ounces, or 263 grams. So even in my size, the Rebel V5 weighs 100 grams less than my size in the More V6. It's tough to keep these numbers straight. So the Rebel V5 definitely feels very light on my foot. Now, if I hold this up, you can see, much like the More V6, the Rebel V5 has quite a bit of padding around the heel collar, meaning that this shoe is going to be very comfortable to put on. It's not like you're strapping yourself into a rocket and you're just there for speed. The Rebel V5 offers comfort as well. Now, we do have a stiff heel counter, and of course I didn't have any heel slip. We've got that same bit of foam right on the back that is really going to help us get the shoe on. And then staying on topic of this being a lightweight daily trainer, we have a Phantom Fit upper, which is just so super breathable. Now, in my colorway, it's a little difficult to see how breathable this shoe is, how translucent the upper is because of these dark colors. But the Rebel V5 is extremely breathable. Your feet are not going to be overheating in this shoe. Now, the tongue, it's a very, very thin but foam tongue. So there is enough padding to stop those laces from biting into the top of your foot. But New Balance really hasn't used any more foam than they actually need. I think this is a big upgrade over the tongue in the Rebel V4 last year. And I'm really liking how this feels on my foot when I'm out on the run. The tongue is gusseted, and we do have a lace loop right here in the middle. And the sock liner is, again, removable in case you wanted to put in something custom or just change it out for something else. As far as overlays, yeah, no big story here. We got the New Balance N on both sides, the reinforcement coming along the eyelet chain. There is an overlay coming around the back. I mean, we've got the heel counter inside, but we've just got like a TPU overlay around the heel. And then because the Phantom Fit upper is just so light, you can see a little reinforcement on the inside, which is basically giving the upper a little structure. So when you tighten down those laces, the shoe is really going to hug your foot. If we come down to the midsole, New Balance is using Fuel Cell. This Fuel Cell is a PIBA EVA blend, and I think it really toes the line for a nice responsive foam that is actually going to last a little bit longer than those really super high-end foams. And I think the Rebel V5 is going to be a very resilient shoe. Now, as far as the responsiveness of this Fuel Cell, this PIBA EVA midsole foam, yeah, it is really quite responsive. You can tell it's not a race day shoe, but because this shoe is so light and we've got this solid Fuel Cell foam, it really is going to perform well in all your workouts. In fact, if you didn't want to buy a race day shoe, the Rebel V5 is actually going to be a very good option for you, especially if you didn't want a plated shoe. And for only $140, it's really tough to beat. So let's move on to our tip of the spear. Now look, this is the Super Comp Elite V5, and this is the shoe that you're going to buy if you want to leave it all out on the field. Or not the field, but the road. Because this is a super shoe, the price reflects that. It is $250, and it is exactly what you want in a super shoe. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know you, but for me, this is what I expect out of a super shoe. And although there is a lot of competition out there, the SC Elite V5 really offers a lot. So first of all, we have 40 in the heel, 32 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop. Now, between this and the SC Elite V4 last year, New Balance has made the drop slightly bigger. So they've reduced the stack in the forefoot. Last year it was a 4mm drop. This year it's an 8mm drop. And as far as weight goes, it's a race day shoe, so you better believe it's going to be light. In fact, in a sample size, men's size 9.5, New Balance claims the SC Elite V5 would tip the scale at 7.3 ounces or 214 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 12.5, it'll tip the scale at 8.7 ounces or 247 grams. So yes, this shoe is light, but what I really think separates the SC Elite V5 from at least some of the other competition is that I think this shoe is going to work well for a wider range of people. Let's just say that. Because for me at least, the SC Elite V5 is a super shoe that is built for comfort. And you can see that if I hold that up, you can see that with this amount of padding we've got around the heel collar, we have a nice rigid heel counter, which can be unusual in these top-end race day shoes when they tend to be a little floppy just to save weight. Got a nice padded bit here on the back of the heel to help pull that shoe on. We have a lovely, breathable and very light upper. The tongue is like a very thin felt. It's felt. There is a little bit of padding right at the top, and that's right where you are going to just tie those laces across the top of the eyelet chain. So no padding where it's ideally not needed. The tongue is aerated throughout, so there shouldn't be any breathability issues. The tongue is gusseted, and we have a lace loop on the front. Now, as far as fit goes, I actually found I had a nice amount of room in the SC Elite V5. Now, of course, a race day shoe is going to fit a little tighter. You are going to get that race day fit, but I didn't have to change the size of my race shoes like I've had to do in some other brands. My feet were comfortable when they were locked in and just ready to roll. Now, as far as the midsole goes, this again is fuel cell, but this is 100% PIBA. So this is going to include New Balance's most responsive foam. Now, sandwiched in between this 100% PIBA fuel cell foam is a carbon fiber plate. And if we look at the bottom, you can see Energy Arc written on it right there. And basically this plate starts fairly high in the heel. In fact, you can see this line right on the shoe, fairly high in the heel, and then it drops down to become a little lower in the forefoot. Now, compared with last year with the SC Elite V4, New Balance has tweaked the formulation of the carbon fiber plate. They've made it a little more rigid in the forefoot. And ultimately what that is going to do is make it even more snappy. And snappiness equals speed. So I think this is going to be the fastest SC Elite shoe yet. What do you think? In fact, what do you think of all of these? The More V6, the Rebel V5, the SC Elite V5? Are you interested in any or all of these shoes? Have you run in any of their predecessors? Definitely drop a comment and let me know. Oh, and also, are any of you thinking of picking up all three in one go? Just knocking out that whole shoe rotation? $545 and you are just set. You don't have to think about another pair of running shoes for at least a couple months. All right, my friends, that's it for now. It's been a New Balance breakdown between the More V6, the Rebel V5, and the SC Elite V5. Be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days.